Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 233.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
Hey guys, gals, people of all ages, and many countries now. So when I look at the reports, I'm seeing where you guys are from, and it's awesome to see how many different countries are represented, how many different people are listening. And I'm guessing it means you like it because you've been listening for a while. A number of you, if you haven't, and this is your first one, I think that's going to be great. But what I'm going to suggest is that you listen to the episode just before this one, because this is kind of a follow-up to the previous one, just to give you some background, so to speak. But more importantly, to think about the fact that I think in the last time we were talking, we were really talking a lot about measuring progress, not completion necessarily as your success metric. And one of the things that I was thinking about was the fact that you may want to very well measure that progress, but you may not know or have the skill set yet, or have ever been told how to measure that progress. What should I be doing? Because sometimes this question comes up. Well, sometimes this question comes up, and the question is simply, Jay, what do I do on a day-to-day basis? You know, and that could be the very thing is that, Jay, what do I do on a day-to-day basis? I want to hopefully give you some insight into that. I want to give you an insight on what to do on a day-to-day basis. You know, hey, I know what it's like to have been an employee. I know what it's like to do whatever it is, what I do now. I know what that's like. Someone told me, here's what you do. You do these things, you get paid, blah, blah, blah. It was very clear, very easy to understand. But that may not be so the case today. Maybe now you're building your business, pursuing cash flow in various different forms, and you don't really know what is the next thing. You don't know, hey, you woke up. Now what do I do? How do I get money to come in? What do I do about it? You know, I don't know if that's something that I don't think any of us are necessarily born with it all the time, or if maybe you get it instinctively. And if it's not you, then that's okay too. This episode is going to help you with that. So one of the, I guess the thing that I would say in the last episode, we simply talked about measuring that, like I said, the process. And I tend to look at the categories of activity because it's really what it comes down to. One of the dangerous things that happens as you begin to evolve and become an entrepreneur is we never want to confuse activity with accomplishment. Those are two completely different things. Activity versus accomplishment. There are some things that are required. They can look very, very similar. But I promise you that they're really not similar at all. And that's the challenge. One is just busy work, and the other is actually moving you towards the direction of your goals. And what I want to do is I want you to think about this definition. I call it pay time. That's what it was taught to me as is pay time, because it's one thing to think about as you cross this line or as you continue to build is how much pay time are you getting on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? So, and I'll use the example of being an employee because many can relate to that, or it makes sense. Or if you've been self-employed, hours and whatnot. If you have billable hours or something of that nature. The question is very simple. If you had one billable hour, or you worked 1 hour per week, what would that paycheck look like? Well, it would be very small. And here's the other thing. You wouldn't expect the paycheck to be big either, right? So you may have invested a lot of time doing many things, but in the back of your head, hey, I only had 1 hour of work this week, or I only had one billable hour. Well, that's going to quickly and clearly help you understand that your quote unquote paycheck isn't going to be, that large. So here's a different way of looking at it, because now that you're, crossing over, so to speak, or now that you're building it bigger and doing these great things, the thing you must understand is that you're no longer paid just for the amount of time that you exist at the workplace, wherever the workplace is for you. And, that being one of the freedoms that we get to enjoy is our workplace can be very different places. So that being one of the things, that being said, what it comes down to is understanding that pay time for you, for myself, or for many other entrepreneurs is actually it's time spent on the phone or in front of a prospect or a customer. That's it. That's really when you're in the right mode of pay time. That's like the most direct route to getting paid is time spent on the phone or in front of a prospect or a customer. So to be clear, this does not mean like picking up your dry cleaning. This does not mean where you are preparing to go somewhere, I'm not saying the, dry cleaning or hanging out with kids and going to a soccer game, or I'm not saying those things aren't important. Arranging your office, that's the popular one, right? You have the phone on one side of the desk and you put it on the other side of the desk, or you're tidying up the business cards that you're moving them all around and shuffling them papers. Okay, that's wonderful. I'm not saying some of those things aren't necessary, and it's even harder as a real estate entrepreneur because you're thinking, well, I need to analyze deals. Oh, I'm not saying you don't. You do. I need to do due diligence. I'm not saying you don't. You do, but that's not time spent on the phone or in front of a prospect or a customer. That's where the highest and best use of your time and activities that help you to do that and support you in that are typically what's going to, at the end of the day, put money in your pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a framework or a structure, if you will, that I believe will assist you in making these things happen. It's one of the success triangles, as I was taught them, and it's the GPT, or goal, plan, and track. You got to have a goal, you got to have a plan, and you got to track it. I told you in the previous episode, hey, you've got to measure your progress. Well, sometimes we don't know how to measure our progress, and to make sure that you don't measure the wrong things, I'm going to give you some ideas of what you can indeed measure to make all of this work. So, what does that mean? 3 categories of things to measure. It's personal development, promotion, and communication. I'll say that again. It's personal development, promotion, and communication. These are 3 very, very important areas to measure this entire time as you continually grow. Now, the interesting thing is, in my opinion, one of the most important is the personal development one. If you neglect this one, this is actually one of the most important, but it's often the most neglected because people just want to get straight to work, so to speak. And I've written an article before. I've said it before. You will never out-earn your personal growth. You must learn to grow personally. At the beginning, it could be just learning to talk to people, and that's that's fine. That's part of your process. That's what you might have to go or grow through in order to get to that signed contract or that closed escrow. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of the process. If you're willing to let yourself grow and grow through the process and see it that way. So personal development actions. What does that mean? Well, for me, there's really only two things. It's one, you've heard me say it before, clarity leads to power, and it's the power to decide and act, period. And therefore, we should have a goal. That means you should spend and invest some time reviewing them. This is something that is actually beneficial for you on a daily basis. You probably have figured this out already. However, it helps to have that internal inspiration at your ready when you are faced with the challenges. And we all have learned, and you've been around enough to know that the biggest competitor that you must face is the person staring you back every time you look in the mirror. But learning how to deal with that person staring you back and making sure that your goals are bigger than the obstacles. Again, reference the episode, just before this one. And you'll understand that reminding yourself of why you're doing something is absolutely critical to your completion of it, to your persevering through it, to the tenacity that you will hopefully develop to make it completely happen. Cultivating your goals. This is something, in my opinion, that is absolutely critical. And it's one of those personal development actions that I know is skipped a lot. One of those things, when it comes to, cultivating your goals, another personal development action would be self-training. What does that mean? That in this case, we're talking actual skills, maybe some of that skill is, sales. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's just learning how to speak. Maybe it's learning about how to schedule your own calendar and time block. Maybe it's about negotiations. Maybe it's just learning how to be silent. That's a good skill too, right? There are many, many skills. Disciplining yourself, your emotions, for sure. Developing emotional intelligence, and even being able to hear when people are talking to you what's not being said as much as what is being said. Hopefully, those things come across very, very clearly. Self-training is huge. The cool thing is it's easy to score points in these categories and make sure that you are cultivating your goals and self-training. I mean, you may not think of it as self-training, but you can train yourself just to be grateful. In fact, one of the things that I do, a friend of mine, and some of you may know his name, John Asaraf, gave me a coin that I know he carries them himself, and he gave me one. It's a gratitude coin, quite simply. And every time I touch it, the whole idea that nothing else is just to think of something that you're grateful for. It's one of many mechanisms that helps me to maintain an air of gratitude. I'll give you a few more in this personal development category. Obviously, there's a time for actually defining what it is that you want to achieve. And when you're thinking about cultivating your goals, it doesn't even have to be large and looming. Just give yourself a goal for today, period. This is what I am going to get done today, right? This is who I'm going to be and show up as today. And just go after that, whatever that might be. Another quick exercise is to simply, and I like this one a lot, it can become a success journal or gratitude journal, depending on how you look at it. And all you got to do is finish the sentence, right? And it makes it very, very easy. Today, 5 reasons I am successful are. That's the question. And then you write down 5 reasons. What are 5 reasons that today you are successful? And it sounds silly, but if this is a practice you ever so would choose to adopt, just try me out for a week. Try me out for a week, right? Once a day, think of 5 things that today you will allow yourself to consider yourself successful for. And they can be anything. You get to define the rules, but you're training yourself in various different ways. Obviously, and let me give you a couple examples just in case it's not as obvious. It could be simple as I remembered to hug my kids. I kissed my spouse on the way out the door. I said thank you to the guy that cut me off. And then I was nicer to my Starbucks barista. I don't know. It could be I actually closed the deal. Okay, awesome. I wrote 5 offers. Awesome. Whatever it takes. The point is, you can train yourself on these things. And this is important. The cool thing about self-training is that, there's no shortage of information today. We live in what many know to be the information age. And if you're listening to this is a form of self-training. You're keeping your brain, your mind, and your body, and all in the same conversation. Because you may not realize it, but by staying in the conversation, it propels you more. It puts you in a situation where you're more likely to continue to achieve. You're more likely to notice the opportunity. And so listening to podcasts, reading books, listening to audiobooks, these are all forms of self-training. Going to events, these are forms, seminars, these are webinars. These are all forms of self-training. And the cool thing is you're completely in control of all of those personal development actions. The next one is promotion actions. These are simply just one of the major reasons. And again, the reason, if your business right now is you've not done a deal and you're just trying to get $1,000 or you're in the 4 figures, you've got the same problem for the person who's actually done a deal and is trying to get to the 5 figures. And you've got the same problem the person who's got 5 and trying to get to 6. And you've got the same problem of the person who's got 6 and trying to get to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. It's really the same in a lot of ways for most of those individuals, especially the 4, 5, 6s, and 7s. It's promotion actions. Not enough people who they don't even know that you're in business. Period. They don't even know that you're in business. You haven't told enough people. And you don't just tell somebody once and go, okay, they know. That doesn't work. You can't, it doesn't work like that. You don't send a direct mail piece once and go, okay, I sent a direct mail piece. How come everyone's not beating down my door? And how come everyone hasn't responded and accepted my offers? It doesn't work like that. You don't send an email once. You don't do flyers one time. We all know what day junk mail comes. Because it comes the same day, every week, and it keeps coming. Well, let me ask you this. Why does it come more than once? Because it works. Period. And who's in business. Now, this is just one form, and again, I'm not necessarily advocating direct mail, because I definitely think it's one of the more expensive ways to go. And emails and flyers, these all things are it's a promotion action. Again, you got to do something. That's for sure. You can even turn how you leave a voicemail into a promotion action. And you've seen advertisements obviously on TV, but you see them in other places now between every website you're on, to Craigslist, to Facebook, to every social media platform. And what about networking events? Do you have what is known as an audio business card? If somebody asks you right now, hey, what do you do? Do you have a programmed response, or at least a response that you've practiced enough so that it can come out of your mouth and help them be interested in what it is that you are doing? I honestly, I don't know. But the ones who are making progress will. And speaking of talking to people, do you even make a phone call? And if so, to whom? And when is the last time? The point I'm trying to say is that promotion action is huge. And learning to make sure that you continually do that is tremendously important. Again, the major reason you're not doing as much business as you'd like is simply because you're not giving enough people enough opportunities to actually do business with you, because they probably don't know that you have something that they want. So promotion actions are huge and ginormous and important. And I've just given you some examples as well. And then it's the communication actions. Now, see, the promotion action isn't necessarily, so I don't want you to think like a coupon per se. I want you to just, it's the, hey, I'm in business, right? Type of message. Not necessarily the, here's the offer and deal I got for you today. You've heard me talk about educate to dominate, right? And that promotion action it's a lot of that education piece. I mean, in today's world, let's say if you're using online technology, do you have a YouTube account that has any sort of video of you explaining anything about your product or service, about what it is you do as a real estate entrepreneur in any way, shape, or form? Do you even have one? Do you have a Facebook page? Do you have an Instagram account? Any of these things, promotion actions. Is there a way that anyone could accuse you? Oh yeah, they're in business. I can find them. I know that this guy has a business and they know what it's about. Is that possible? They may not have, any details on any particular offer, and that's fine, but can they find out that you are actually in business? Then comes the communication actions. These are where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, where you can get a little intense and heated. And if you're an introvert like me, you experience a ton of anxiety from time to time, because this is where you're actually on the phone with a person who has the ability to be your next buyer, seller, or investor. This is where you're sitting down one-on-one, or you're actually doing a presentation to, a group, or maybe a small group or a large group. Maybe you are actually delivering a webinar. Oh my gosh. And now you're doing some, or you're following up and they've come to a presentation already, or you're writing that letter of intent and you're going over it with the potential seller and hoping that they say yes at the end of the day, looking for that yes, looking for that agreement. You're sitting down with that memorandum of interest or talking with the potential investor. And they are, considering your deal in some way, shape, or form. And that, that 50,000, 100,000, $250,000, whatever the dollar amount is, $1 million. It doesn't really matter. The point is you're communicating and you're talking to an individual, and that transfer of energy and information is actually happening. Or maybe they said yes, and now you're just going through the paperwork. You're trying to get the next stage of the escrow process completed, or, maybe you're helping them get started with whatever it is that you do. You're walking them through your process, the enrollment process, if you will, or maybe you're communicating the fact that you have a need. That need is, well, you want more people like them to be referred over to you. Hey, they've got a friend or two or 12 or 1,250, or if you look at Facebook, 5,000, right? They have a friend or few. Maybe they should send some of those individuals over to you as well. Here's my point. Those are all communication actions. And those also they're high value and they should be done. But that's what you should be doing on a day-to-day basis. Some personal development, some promotion, and some communication every day. And it's wash, rinse, and repeat. It's not super sexy like you may have seen on, TV, and it doesn't happen in 30 minutes. But every day there's some personal development, promotion, and communication that's happening. Every day. That's what it must be. You must begin to have some sort of a routine in that sense. And the thing is, and this is where, it can get a little off, is I said the success triangle. You have to have a goal, you have to have a plan, and you have to track it. What does that mean? That means if you're going to have a goal for a personal development action, for example, you should say something like, I'm going to make sure that I listen to or consume a minimum of 2 books a month. Now, I just made up the 2 books a month. Yours could be 10. It could be 2 books a week. It doesn't really matter. The point is you now have a goal in your personal development action category, right? Or, when I get up in the morning before I go to bed, I'm going to write in my success and gratitude journal. Awesome. Great. Or I'm going to declare the number one thing that I must get done today, or in that when I accomplish it, I will allow myself to feel the feelings of success. Perfect. But declare those things. Make them those goals. Promotion action goals would, simply be, I'm going to meet 5 new people today. Name, phone number, email. I will meet 5 new people today. Or I will make sure that my, if you're going to go to the advertising route, I'm going to make sure I get all my ads placed today. Or if you're doing that direct, I'm making sure today 1,000 pieces go out. That's awesome. But that only counts for today. So just keep that in mind. Or I'm going to make those 25 phone calls, 250 phone calls. I don't really care the number. The point is I care that you make a goal, right? That you make a goal. You should even have some of these goals for the things that you feel like you don't have necessarily control over. For example, I'm going to set 3 new appointments today, 15 new appointments today to meet with buyers, sellers, and potential investors. I'm going to give 15 presentations this week, 200 presentations this week. It doesn't really matter. The point is, have the goal. After that goal has been conceived, in order to achieve it, you should have some semblance of a plan. This is probably going to begin to involve your calendar. So I like to go what by when. What am I going to do by when? All right. If I'm going to, for example, there was a time when I spent a whole lot more time in my car than I do today. I rarely spend time in the car, and that was also the time that I dedicated towards listening to audiobooks. And it made it really, really easy. It's like, cool. So yeah, I'm going to get through my books really fast because I'm driving and, I'm listening to the books. And if you are any way familiar with Southern California traffic, like nobody's business that, traffic gives you time to get through more than one audiobook, or in this case, podcast. And that's important. But I had a plan. I didn't create a goal and just go, okay, this is what I would like to have happen. No, here's what by when. What am I going to do? That's the goal. By when? Put it in the calendar. Okay. Because that'll help you get it done. When are you going to actually make those phone calls? From what time to what time? 2 to 3, 1 to 4. And don't get hung up on, what's the perfect time to make a call? Everything works. Nothing doesn't. I'll say it again. Everything works. Nothing doesn't. It doesn't really matter when you make the call. Make the call. You'll get more out of actually making the call and being consistent at making the calls than worrying and trying to optimize when's the best time to make the calls. Make the call. Okay. And it's important to understand these things. So what by when? You got to have a plan on how and when you're going to do these things. Okay. If you're going to actually write 12 offers this week, 12 offers today, 200 offers this month, whatever the number is, I don't care. If you're going to do it, how many are you going to do per day? Or what days is going to be your offer writing day so that you can do other things other days? And stick to it and do it. That way you have a plan. Then obviously, as I said, probably the most important piece is the actual tracking. You want to just, it doesn't even have to be complicated. A sheet of paper, an Excel sheet, simply fine. Ask yourself every day, take inventory. Did I do my personal development actions today? Did I cultivate my goals? Did I have any self-training? How many hours of self-training? Did I do it? Did I actually do any direct mail, emails, flyers, voicemail drops, advertisements? Did I meet the new people that I said I was going? Did I do it today? How many phone calls did I make? Did I do that? How many people called me back? How many appointments did I set? Did I give any presentations? Did I meet the goal I set for today? And this begins to comprise doing the right things long enough consistently is when you start to track it. You no longer have to wonder, it's not about measuring time. Oh, I was working for 12 hours. Okay, well, if you worked for 12 hours but made 2 phone calls, really, how much time did you really, really, really work? And you will no longer be able to deceive yourself. The other thing that makes this really, really helpful is when you're asking someone more experienced than you for help. And say, for example, you have this tracking sheet of personal development actions, promotion actions, communication actions, etc. Say you have that. And you can show them, look, I've been doing these things, but and I've been sending out, emails and flyers, and I've been going to networking groups, and I've been meeting new people, and I've been building my database, but I'm stuck. And maybe it's you're not setting the appointments, and now they can work with you and say, hey, tell me how you're trying to set an appointment. Let me listen. Let me hear. Or maybe, you're good at setting appointments, but no one's showing up to them. Or you're good at setting the appointments and you're delivering these presentations, but nothing's closing. Well, okay, cool. Then let's talk about, show me a sample presentation. What does that look like? Or maybe you're not even getting that far, and the real issue is you're just not meeting enough people. Your database isn't growing. And that could be the very case, but you don't know it. So instead of taking yet another course or class, what you probably just need to do is go talk to some people, do what you know you should be doing. And quite honestly, if you're like me, you can get afraid to do it from time to time. I understand. Here's why I wanted to have this conversation with you today. It's because for many places all across the world, this coming week and the week after is going to be a really, really great time to do what I believe is the foundational, most important one on this entire list. See, when I'm working with a new client or a group coaching or whatever, I will often bet, like if I was actually like taking bets on who's going to make it and who's not, I often would bet on the person who's committed to their personal development, to the person who's always asking me, Jay, what's the next book I should read? To the person who's actually reading those books and growing and changing and still going to that next seminar, still investing in themselves and growing and changing. Because that's really where you're going to get the best and highest return. And I'm hoping that if you've made it this far, you're one of those people. And I wanted to make sure that you heard that this is the time. It's your time. And to make it your time, go sharpen that axe. Sharpen the saw before you start trying to use the tool. And you are that tool. And now's a great time because, well, let's face it, you're already thinking about the next year anyway. And might as well do something to give yourself a shot at making the next year different than this last one. It's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.